So we have 3 goals for our session today. The first is assembling information from multiple sources. So we're talking about synthesizing information. Strategies for arranging the information into a coherent structure. And then finally creating the annotated outline for your preparatory assignment. We hope that there will be a bit of time to work toward that. So this is the assignment that you all are working toward. The introduction, outline, and bibliography assignment due November 12th. And we're breaking it down, so we're working on the annotated outline today, which should include 3 or 4 section headings and a description of the purpose of each section and the overall argument. It should also give some indication of a conclusion by answering questions such as, what do you expect to draw from this research? Where might this research lead you next? And how does this research relate to your personal faith and or ministry context? So we'll try to keep that in view as we proceed today. So the verb synthesize gets used a lot in a scientific context. It means to combine a number of things into a coherent whole. We can think of this like a science experiment, or a more simple form, which is cooking. We take a list of ingredients, we assemble them all, we prepare them and organize them and put them together and make something new out of them that can be enjoyed. So we're kind of cruising through a section of about 3 chapters in the Turabian Guide. So if you want this process broken down into a lot more detail, the Turabian Manual, which we have in reference and in the stacks in 808.02, is a really good guide for writing research papers, and it lays out in a lot of detail how to do the process of putting together your research, taking notes, and constructing your argument, planning a first draft. So I want to just lay out what I kind of see as 4 steps that take you from a pile of books on the one hand to your paper on the other. So this is always kind of a moment of truth in the research, when you have to stop researching and transform that into something written that's worthwhile. So when you stop gathering your ingredients and you take those ingredients and you make sure that they're all ready to put into something that you cook together. So it takes the good preparation to be able to write well. So the first suggestion, which comes straight from the Turabian Manual, is to read twice. So if you think that this involves a lot of reading, it's true. And even one reading of a text may not be enough. You may need to read first to understand and then to engage it, taking really good notes and indicating key concepts and connections, not just repeating the information. So your notes shouldn't just repeat the information that you see in the book. They should be drawing new connections and mapping out concepts. The second step is to use a concept map to draw out your ideas. Brandon and I were talking about this before the session. We don't always do a formal concept map ourselves when we write, but it's something kind of in the back of our minds as a tool to go from concepts to making connections between them. So this isn't something that you have to do every time, but it can be a helpful tool if you're stuck and need to make more clear connections. Or it may be something that you do on the back of a notebook paper while you're getting ready to write. Turabian actually refers to something called a storyboard, which is an even more kind of complex exercise where you have pages for each topic, and you write out ideas on each page and then organize those pages. So then you take your concept map and you arrange those concepts into a structured outline with a main point and supporting arguments. So what is your overall argument, and what are the arguments that come underneath that to support it? And then finally, you flesh out the structure of your outline by writing the outline into full paragraphs, and you circle back to your notes to get writing material. So your outline will lead you to the writing of your paper in an ideal setting. So we're going to draw a little concept map here, and Brandon is going to take over here and show you how to do this.
Yeah, so Carl talked a bit about concept maps being a way for you to start getting ideas down on paper, going from your notes to thinking about how are you actually going to arrange these in your final paper. This is something that I learned how to do when I was in school, when I was like a teenager in high school. And like Carl mentioned, when I'm writing now, I don't really do it much anymore, but it's kind of still, I don't do it on paper, but I do it in my mind, right? But it's a way for me to think about organizing my ideas in a useful and coherent way. So there's kind of 4 steps that you take, and at the end you kind of have all of your ideas down on the paper and can then think about how to take them from there into your final paper. So the first step is just in the center of a paper, you're going to write your main argument, your thesis, the topic of your paper, right? And I'm gonna do an example here, right? I'm going to imagine that I'm writing a paper and my argument is that panda bears are cute, okay? So here in the center of my paper, I've got my main argument or the thesis of my paper right there in the center, okay? Step 2, and you can't quite read it because it's up there on the exit sign, but you're going to write reasons that you believe this or that you're arguing this point, right? In your paper, this will probably be the 3 or 4 section headings that Jamie talks about in your annotated outline, right? And then you're going to connect those to this main idea just with a circle and a line. So my first piece of evidence will be they are fuzzy, right? And I've connected that to the main argument there in the middle. Second one, they are round, also connected to the middle. And then the third one, I mean, look at it, right? So I put these here in this order, just kind of in the order that they came to my mind, right? This doesn't necessarily have to be the order that they are in the final paper. The point right now is just to get all your ideas there, and you can think later about how you actually organize them, right? Step 3, then we're going to take each of these section headings or these ideas that support your main argument, and we're going to think about the evidence that supports these secondary ideas. And again, we're just going to connect these. So for the first one, I've got a few pieces of evidence here that support the idea that they are fuzzy, right? For the second one, I've got some more pieces of evidence that support the idea that they are round. And then I've got another picture that, yeah, I mean, it's very cute. So once you have all of your ideas and evidence kind of here on the page, then you take a step back and think about, okay, when it comes time for me to actually write my paper, what sort of order for these ideas makes the most sense? How can I put these in my paper so that they will build on one another and eventually lead to, a compelling and coherent argument? They all kind of work towards the same goal, but what's the best order for them to appear in your final paper?
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. So the outline really flows from doing this concept mapping. And what I would suggest is that you take and you number, if we still have the panda bears on the screen, we could take and number 1, 2, 3, and kind of put the evidence in the order that we want it to appear in the paper. And so then you have an outline with section headings, and then you can briefly write about the section's purpose and maybe some of the types of evidence that you plan to introduce, and then include some concluding remarks about what you'll draw from the research and how the research connects to your context, like the assignment outlined. So we have some sheets here for concept mapping, a template, and if you also are feeling stuck about any of this process, I have the Travian copy here. And so start charting things out on a concept map that you've been working at in your research, and hopefully that can translate into your outline. And feel free to get some more food as you need it, and ask us if you have any questions.